Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jenny. Today's video is going to be a review, demo, and swatches of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette. Let me go ahead and show you what the inside looks like. Very, very pretty. I'm going to go ahead and do the demo and then we will jump into the review and then we will finish with swatches. So let's go ahead and start the demo. So I've already primed my eyes, and to set down the primer I'm going to go into the shade Fresh and just pat this all over the lid. With a crease brush, I'm going to go into the shade Birch and run this into the crease and up into like the higher crease. Now going into the shade Bloom, going to do the same thing. Going into the shade Dystopian on a smaller crease brush, I'm going to focus this on the outer V and kind of up into the outer crease. Going in with a little more of the Bloom shade, I'm going to kind of blend all of those shades together. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of concealer. This one is a Physicians Formula concealer. It's the Nude Wear Touch of Glow concealer. I am going to take the little brush that it came with, and I'm just going to kind of carve out the inner part of the lids. And with the brush that came with the palette, I'm going to go into the shade Steampunk and pat that onto the concealer. With that same brush, I'm going to go into the shade Rose Quartz and rub that right on top to kind of blend the shades together. Going in with a little tiny bit of Cyborg, I'm going to do the same thing. This shade's going to kind of brighten everything up. Going in with a little tiny pencil type brush, I'm now going to go into the shade Noir. Just a very, very light hand, tapping off most of the excess. I'm going to focus this right out here on the outer portion of the eye. Now going in with a very small angled eye brush, I'm going to go back into the shade Noir and use it to line. So this is it for the top portion of the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my face and I'll be right back. So going in with a little bit of Birch on a pencil brush, I'm going to run this all over the lower lash line. Going in with a little tiny bit of Bloom, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to go all the way in. And I'm just taking a tiny bit because I don't want it to be too red on the lower lash line. Going in with a flat definer brush and the shade Dystopian, I'm going to put this really close to the outer portion of the lash line. Going in with a detailer brush in the shade Pearl, I'm going to put this on the inner corners. So now that I have added mascara, this is the final eye look. Let's go ahead and start the review. So to start the review, I do want to talk about the packaging. So the packaging is built the same way as all of their other palettes, like the Subculture, the Modern Renaissance, all of the Norvina, all of those palettes. It's built the exact same, except this one is covered in glitter instead of the velvet packaging. At first, I thought this was absolutely gorgeous, and it still is gorgeous, but this glitter comes off, I don't know if you can tell, but it comes off on your hands when you touch it, and I'm just not a fan of that. I feel like I'm paying too much money for the glitter to come off. I do think that this would have been pretty in like this color, this like bronzy red color. If that was like that velvet color that they use for the others, I think that would be pretty and it wouldn't be nearly as messy. That being said, the packaging itself is nice. It does have a it has a decent magnetic closure. I don't think I would be comfortable traveling with it though, because these shadows are kind of soft in formulation and I think they could potentially be very, very fragile. It does come with a double-ended brush like the rest of the palettes. This brush that I actually used to apply the shimmers today is a really nice, really soft brush, but I feel that the crease brush is actually very, very scratchy and very like not great quality. This is part of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Holiday Collection for 2018, so it is limited edition. This palette is $45 compared to the $42 that you pay for the rest of her palettes. So I'm assuming the $3 extra is because it's the holiday edition and the packaging is the sparkly instead of the velvet. As a whole, the quality of this palette is amazing. These shimmers are absolutely stunning and gorgeous, and they apply and wear beautifully. I do feel that these darker mattes down here are kind of hard to blend and they become very patchy. I noticed while I was doing this look that dystopian right here, when I was buffing it into the outer V of my eye, I saw it starting to get patchy. So you do have to kind of blend and blend and blend and blend to get them to work. But the lighter mattes like Birch and Bloom and Twig, those are very, very nice to throw in the crease and they blend very, very nicely. The shimmers in this palette are some of the best shimmers I've ever used. Quality wise, I think this is right up there with the Modern Renaissance palette. I think that the quality of these shadows are really, really nice. I do think that the Modern Renaissance is a tad bit more user friendly just because I never have an issue blending those mattes, where these deeper matte shades in this palette can kind of be difficult to work with. I do think that the shimmers in this palette are better than the Modern Renaissance, although Modern Renaissance only has 2 shimmers and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shimmers. Now we're going to dive into the actual shadows themselves. In this palette you get 7 mattes and 7 shimmers. There aren't any like satiny kind of shades. The shimmers are very shimmery and then of course the mattes are matte. This is a cooler tone palette compared to the other palettes that she's come out with, except for Norvina. I think that might be the only other cooler tone palette, and that one's a more purple palette. So this is a more cool tone neutral palette, and I really, really like this compared to her other ones because her other ones are either neutral or warm leaning. And so I think it was really smart to come out with a cool tone limited edition palette. Although limited edition means nothing these days, so I'm sure this will somehow become a permanent item, which I'm not complaining. I think everyone should get their hands on this. As a whole, I think this palette is absolutely stunning. Other than the few blending issues and the deeper mattes, I think this is a really, really great palette. I think the shimmer quality is great. The mattes are really, really pretty. The colors in this are really, really pretty. I was actually really intimidated by the shade Bloom when I first picked this palette up, but it's actually a really, really easy color to work with. It's not too intense, and it plays really nicely with these neutrals and just adds a little bit of pop and a little bit of color to your neutral eye look. So the final verdict of this palette is that I think it's an awesome palette and the quality is excellent. I definitely think that this is a palette that everyone should run out and get before it goes away. Hopefully it won't go away. Hopefully it'll become permanent so then everyone gets the chance to get their hands on it. But I definitely suggest this palette and I think that the quality is awesome. I do know that $45 is a bit much for an eyeshadow palette, but I do think that the quality is there and I do think that it's worth the extra couple bucks for the Anastasia palette. So now we're going to go ahead and start the swatches, and I'm going to do them by row. In this first row we have Fresh, which is a very pale light color. It's not going to show up great on my skin tone. We have Pearl, Steampunk, and Rose Quartz. Rose Quartz is one of my favorite shades in this entire palette. It's a beautiful like pink with a golden shift to it. It's really pretty. Then we have Ember, Bloom, and Birch. Let me get a better swatch of Birch. So here is row number 1. Moving on to row number 2, we have Cinder. Cinder is a beautiful shade. We have a Twig, which is a nice cooler tone brown. Teak. It's a horrible swatch. It wasn't a bad swatch. And then Dystopian. Get a better swatch of that. And then we have Dystopian, which is my second favorite shade in this palette. Holy crap. It's like a silver with like a grayish kind of base. It's gorgeous. And then we have Slate and Noir, which is a really nice black. Here is the second row. I will say that Dystopian, which is this darker oh my gosh, this darker brown, it and Bloom are the driest in this palette, but that doesn't really affect Bloom's blending. I don't know if that's why Dystopian is kind of tough to blend or not, but Bloom performs just fine. Both of them are more dry in texture. Overall, this is an excellent quality palette, and I definitely recommend it. I will have it linked down for you in the description bar below in case you're interested in checking it out. So that is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have found it helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and if you would like to subscribe, please feel free, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.